What is up, Earthnoids and Space Noids? I am just a simple new type, and in this episode we are continuing Gaia gear. Last time, Joe eventually found Krishna after she left Maha and almost starved. They happened to run into Everly Keys, who was looking for a Frenchie, and the clone of Shar did something that Shar couldn't. He stopped being a soldier and started to become a leader. This time, Ol fights against Joe. Everly is taken prisoner by Maha, and a Frenchie preps for the final push on Maha. So let's get into this. Monfalcone, Italy is a safe haven for people with anti-Federation sentiment. Within the city, hidden underneath the vines, is a transport ship called the Valkyria. This is acting as a front vanguard for Metatron. They note that Maha acquiring the bushing Nug shows that they are growing and pushing through Europe. Some of the boys note a phenomenon where humans born on colonies never want to leave Earth the moment they step foot on the ground. Even people that desert Maha tend to stay on Earth illegally. There seems to be an ancestral draw to Earth, even to those who were never born there. A Frenchie talks to a pilot named Benoit Rojak. She says the Gids is horrifying. A Frenchie says, "Some people call me Af." Yeah, no one's calling you that. Benoit was the person referenced in the diary found by Krishna. This person is indeed trying to assassinate a Frenchie. Also, this novel is throwing new names and pilots and a crew at me like this isn't the final arc of a story. I'm not getting attached to anyone anymore. Get out of here. A Frenchie then thinks, maybe Benoit is sent here to try to assassinate me. Man, my new type powers suck. Toto tells Madras that he doesn't trust Benoit and calls her a wolf in sheep's clothing. Toto's not even a new type and he has better senses than a new type. Miranda and Madras think he's being rude, but he isn't wrong. A technician named Margaret Lane says that Dargel is obsessed with Wagner, so he is probably going to Bavaria and the surrounding areas. A Frenchie overhears this tactic and thinks she might be right. Joe is in the busted up Zoran Soul with Everly and Krishna. He mentions they are on the run and might not be able to see a Frenchie immediately. This chapter goes into detail about race mixing, and it is awkward, but one thing that comes out of this conversation is that even though a Frenchie is a clone of Shar and appears Anglo-Saxon on the outside, he is an Asian island boy at heart. That is what drew Krishna to a Frenchie to begin with. She mentions an Asian vitality in him. Then she notes, "Why do I only like white boys?" What a wild conversation this chapter was. Joe spots heat signatures at an old Monfalcone base. They decide to hide and wait it out. Everly knows that Benoit is trying to kill a Frenchie and wants to warn him, but she realizes that she is going to have to do this alone. While Ol is in a new Gids, he spots a Zoran Soul in the area, but he wonders why. He has been unlucky lately after escaping Bezan Khan. Dargel gave him a new mobile suit, so he decides to use the Zoran Soul as targeting practice. Joe begins evading Ol's mobile suit. The Zoran Soul uses the terrain to its advantage. Remember, the Zoran Soul is barely hanging together and is missing an arm. He hides behind a wall, though Ol can sense him. As Joe bursts through the wall, Ol gets an opportunity and takes a shot on the Zoran Soul's cockpit, killing Joe. Ol realizes this wasn't a normal resistance fighter, and he would have died if the Zoran Soul was armed. This battle has him shaking. The girls are in Everly's truck and was set down before the battle started. They sense Joe is dead, but want to confirm this. That is when the earth rumbles as the Gids comes crashing down. Krishna realizes that Joe is truly dead. A voice tells the girls to get out of the truck. It is Ol. She asks Ol what happens, knowing the answer. Krishna cries and wonders, why him? Ol says, "That's war, baby. You want to see his body? Or, what's left of it." Dude really knows how to push her buttons. He wants to know what Everly's name is. She says her name is Virginia Lee. While crying for Joe, Krishna says that she is lying and that her name is Everly Key. Dick move. Ol recognizes the name Everly as the person connected to Frenchie's past. Ol knows exactly how to dig that knife deep in Krishna's heart by saying, "So are you jealous of this woman? I bet you're jealous of this woman." She regrets saying her real name. Ol does a good old gut punch on Everly's stomach, causing her to pass out. I will never understand this cliche. Usually you just get the wind knocked out of you. How do you full on black out? Maybe Japanese people should work on their abs. Ol takes Everly and retreats in his Gids, leaving Krishna behind, barely even acknowledging her. Benoit was hired by the old men of Metatron to assassinate a Frenchie if things turn south, but she is a professional and is caught up in the current mission. She puts her assassination plans on hold for now. A Frenchie's plan centers around Neuschwanstein Castle. Disney was inspired by this design to make that Disney castle where he keeps all those Disney princesses in his sex dungeon. King Ludwig II built this castle as a vanity project in the hopes that Wagner would perform there. However, Wagner fled Bavaria and never actually visited the castle. It survived throughout Universal Century because it lacks any military value. Suck it, King Ludwig II. No one likes your castle. They are to ignore Munich. Benoit will run distraction around the Austrian border. Afranchi will head to Munich, then divert course towards the castle. This is an incredibly dangerous plan, and the crew knows it. Benoit is listening and thinking, yeah, his confidence is getting the juices going. The plan of Metatron was to bring all of the anti-Federation rebels together to stand a fighting chance against them. Then they would bring in the second coming of Shar Aznable in the hopes that the people would rally around him. That's right, full frontal wasn't invented yet. Get out of here, Fukui. Mr. I'm J.J. Abrams for Gundam. Benoit preps for launch, enter Gaius. The Gaius is a mass production variant of Gaia gear. This version has stronger armor in the legs, a different head, and a different back. This also does not have the flight form like Gaia gear. It could use Gaia gear's parts for repairs if necessary, as well as it having the same armaments. This has enhanced speed and maneuverability over Gaia gear's mobile suit form to make up for the lack of flight form. This most likely doesn't have the Psychomu either. After destroying Dargle's Maha forces, her goal is to execute Afranchi. She ponders on this. Like a lot, Admiral Parrish, Captain Quaylin, and Captain Coldel are the only men that matter when referring to the Old Guard. Now that Baijin Dargle is a threat to the Federation, their position towards Metatron has changed, so they cut a deal. They will be integrated into the Federation as a Special Forces team to help with Maha, but they have to sever ties with Afranchi, and Benoit is the one to carry out those orders. Afranchi tells Messer, Toto, and Ray that he feels like he truly had a camaraderie with one another. As they head to their mobile suits, Toto throws his knife into the shadows of the forest. They hear a yelp. It is Krishna. They draw their weapons on her as Afranchi realizes what is going on. Krishna tells Afranchi about Ol taking Everly. Afranchi tells her that she should leave. If she stays, he will have to punish her as the leader of Metatron. He suggests that she find others that want to flee and do so while they are out on their mission. That is all he could offer her. She also tells him about Benoit, but he is too focused on the mission. They leave her as they launch. Krishna's motivations are based on her wanting to be noticed, but she ended up being ignored by most people in her life. The Koi Lu and 10 Gedzgeese launch to intercept Afranchi's forces. Dargle consents that this is a trap. He will just let the Koi Lu handle the vanguard, while the Geijisu hangs back. He says, let those Chinese handle it. They are so resourceful. Tomino, you are so graceful when it comes to race. Dargle's mind then wanders to his subordinate, Lieutenant Marissa. He thinks, boy, would I like to do things to her. Focus, bro. He wants Everly brought on board the Geijisu. Dargle thinks that she knows of Afranchi's location. He is too paranoid. He thinks, why would Afranchi do such a basic standard front attack? He boards his ship while listening to Wagner. Metatron's plans were on the nose, as Dargle won't let anything happen to Bavaria. Dargle gets intel of the battle as it comes in. The Koi Lu Gedzgeese engage with the third Metatron wave. Dargle believes that mankind requires the due diligence of a few to create the technology to keep the rest essentially in line. Those systems, however, are what created the colonies. And he acknowledges that humans yearn for Earth, even those in the colonies. A lot of the characters in this series contradict themselves, specifically Dargle, Ol, and Krishna. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. Everly is bound and gagged. The Maha commander is underwhelmed. He says, alright boys, strip her. Let's see that body. She strips her clothes. Dargle thinks, yeah, this is a real childbearing woman. She's got that thickness and muscle that says that she lived a real life, and that does it for him. What's happening right now? He gets mad that his underlings don't appreciate her beauty. After they leave, Everly speaks to him, but she is bound and gagged. He then hears Wagner in his head and realizes that Everly is a Newtype. She says that she is just someone that the sea calls to. Everly has no scars or combat experience. She most likely doesn't know anything about Metatron. They will let her go. Ol comes bearing intel regarding Afranchi's second wave. Dargle was right. They're after the Neuschwanstein castle. Like Metatron expected, he plans on protecting the castle and making it a priority. Dargle orders Ol to look for the Brahm texture that Metatron stole and destroy it. Ol is still bitter against Dargle and plans on letting the castle get destroyed out of spite. He then sees Maha taking Everly. Ol says, I'll take care of her. He says that he will help her get back to her island. Of course, he's planning something nefarious. And that will do it for this episode. Krishna's character is a walking cautionary tale, it seems. Named after the Hindu god for love and compassion, she seems to have the worst luck and burdened with suffering. And it's all self-inflicted due to pettiness, and honestly, it's not the best writing from Tomino, though I will reserve my thoughts for the final video. Next time, we conclude Gaia Gear, Metatron storms the castle, and Afranchi and Ol have their final battle. But that will do it for now, Newtypes. Remember, if you can, just let the Chinese handle it. Peace.